time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 to the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR night racing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this coverage of the 5th round of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Monday night, once again, our Skippy night. Qualifying has just completed. We'll run you immediately through your starting grid for this event, and out front, we start in Povey, starting on the inside of row number 1. Just 1/1000th of a second though between himself and Paul Grillo. From Martinez, best qualifying of the season in 3rd, Stuart Adcock in 4th. Ulrich Swiderwicz in 5th and Mark Mercer 6th. Sebastian Job all the way down in 7th. Adrian Bidwell in 8th. Rafael Draskas in 9th. And George Lee Wright rounding out your top 10. Now Rachel incredibly close out front, but at the rear of the field, so Graham Carroll trying to come from the rear to the front.
Good evening. Yes, he is, Will. Graham Carroll not setting a qualifying time despite attending practice. His practice time would have actually put him, as it stands, in the 8th position on the track. So has a lot of pace. Maybe we'll see something else from him tonight. Could be a good one.
Drivers starting to line themselves in on the starting grid. There you can see some of them as the drivers wheel today. We're racing at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway road course, and it's an interesting one here. You see there some of the drivers out front. Paul Grillo say just 1/1000th of a second back from overall pole position. So definitely going to be a race, an exciting one. You see those drivers starting to rev their engines there. We'll take a look at Fahim Atinides. Focus our attention then on the front row, and there you can see Paul Grillo just ahead in that number 78 car. Simon Povey will be leading the way to turn number 1 as it stands. Of course, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, every Monday night is Skippy night. Those light any moment now will go on top of the ISN.com gantry, waiting for some more drivers to make themselves down to the starting grid, and then we'll get ourselves ready to rock and roll. Those lights will go on, and turn number 1 here and 2. You'll see drivers bunching up. Now, you can see those lights going on top of the gantry, and the 5th round of the championship will indeed start right now. Good start there by Povey. Good start though also by Grillo, and a good start by Atinides. They work themselves down in towards turn 1 and 2 for the first time, but you got yourself 4th place going side by side there with Atinides. Battle for position as they work themselves 2 wide, almost 3 wide there, down in towards turn number 3 for the first time. You have actually got a bit of 3 wide racing. We ride along board then with Fahim Atinides as he comes down into the corner. He's got that number 52
big crash.
machine. Oh, and we've got ourselves big crash at the rear of the field, Rachel.
We do indeed. One of those is Abdullah Amri, who is involved with the Club 100, number 100 car of Jonathan Maycock. The two coming around turn 1 and 2's banking section when Maycock came down on Al Amri, causing the two to crash heavily and flipping Maycock several times.
We've got another
so our first
as well.
incident.
Clark Williams, so you can see him out of the race for the time being. They are still too wide as they work themselves then through this outfield section, working themselves down toward the oval, the inner part of the oval to complete the lap. And you can see out front, Povey leads away from Grillo. Then it's Adcock, Savidovic, Atanides down into 5th. Mercer and Job pretty close together right now. And as you see behind him, George Lee Wright looking down to the inside as they come onto the banking. We ride along board with him then. And Lee Wright having to get out of the gas there. But he's now into the 9th position, up 1 spot from where he started. Now, Rachel, that final corner, Lee Wright did try to just move that car down to the inside. It's pretty much single file there until you get onto the banking.
Yeah, he did. And perhaps a little premature there, but he's certainly sizing up his competition right now. And that back of Adrian Bidwell's looking under threat. Getting on the inside there through turn 3, making some light contact, but nothing too heavy. He definitely looks like he wants to move forwards well.
Yep, so we're going to try and get ourselves a look at what happened with Al Amri. So you can see then through turn number 1 and 2, working himself 3 wide, making contact there with that Club 100 car, flipping the 100 machine upside down. That was Jonathan Maycock. You can see a wicked contact by him. And Al Amri has put his car onto pit road. He has got himself some new tyres and it's back out onto the racetrack. So your top 10 will show that on the left hand side of your screen. Povey continues to lead way. He's got himself an early advantage on that first lap, but Adcock much closer as he let himself past the start finish line once again. And we know that Grillo is incredibly fast here, Rachel. It's just going to be a case of, can he find a way past on a track which we know from Saturday night was incredibly difficult to overtake on?
It was indeed, Will, and we remember from Saturday night, of course, that outfield section, rather unusual because it's the only oval course we have in our racing that has an outfield road course rather than infield, has actually more banking than the oval parts of the main track. So it presents different challenges for those drivers, especially with the way the car wants to wash out. We saw numerous cars making contact there because of that fact. And lines are incredibly sensitive, so we should see people experimenting with moving slightly up the track to that middle groove.
Got ourselves a little bit of two-wide racing. Simon Holbert, Adrian Bidwell to work themselves now through those sweeping bend corners there, riding along board, and you can see down to the inside. We'll go Simon Holbert over the number 24 car of Adrian Bidwell, moving himself up 1 position. As actually you can see behind, mighty close now, is Rafael Drasquez in that battle for P number 10 and 11 on the racetrack. Now, Rachel, these laps do also tick off incredibly quickly here. So it won't be long until we're into the halfway point of the race. We've got ourselves some pretty entertaining packs. This one in the mid-pack, you can see David Williams in that number 29 car. We're not seeing him in quite a while. He's looking down to the inside there, Drasquez, as they come down into 1, but he just can't hold it on that inside line. The banking here, it's so difficult to understand. You got yourself 4 degrees of banking at the bottom, 7 degrees at the top, but it's depth banking, not parabolic banking, what you get at tracks like Homestead and Michigan.
It is indeed, and we saw there, as much as Williams didn't quite get the angle right, neither did Drasquez ahead of him, pushing up the track. Light contact between those two, by the way, the lap before, Will, exiting the outfield section. Williams just tapping the back of Drasquez, no damage to either of them, but a wake-up call. Yeah, these guys really need to kind of work on how they're trying to move to that banking, because right now a lot of drivers, it seems, throughout the field are sliding up as they try and take it at a higher speed.
And of course that banking, just 4 degrees at the bottom, makes it incredibly difficult to hold that inside line. In fact, at one point it used to be the, as you see there, a 5-car train. Sebastian Job right in the mix there. He's got himself George Lee right behind him. This is the battle for P number 6 on the racetrack. We ride along board then with Sebastian Job, but the banking, you'll notice it here, it's an incredibly flat track, is the Magic Mile. It's actually the least banked track that the NASCAR series goes to all year long. Actually do 2 races here, one of them in the height of summer, and then one actually just about 8 weeks later, just as part of the chase. And you can see that slow number 52 car of Adcock is falling down the field. He's just been passed, and 2-wide racing behind, because you can see, oh, you've got 52 in the number 80 car. That's Savidovic there, battling with Adcock. They stay side by side, so work themselves back down towards turn 4H.
They do indeed, and we have at the back of that pack group, of course, Sebastian Job and George Lee Wright side by side. Wojciech Savidovic there defending from not Mark Mercer, that is the car there of Stuart Adcock. Yes, he's dropped back heavily from 3rd position to where he currently lies. That pack definitely sorted themselves out. They're all over each other, very similar speeds, and trying to find a way. We did mention earlier on, it's very hard to pass here. They're starting to find it, and guys are making mistakes, just putting wheels off track, trying to find more speed.
We have
We
a
do.
crash at the rear end of the field once again, and that one is Tim Adcock
Big.
there, upside down. He's gone into the safer barrier, and we'll get ourselves another look at that. Mark O'Connell involved in that one as well, and they were running very close together. We had the number 22 car, Rob Green, in the mix there as well. We'll try and slow it down, figure out what happened there as they worked themselves down this downhill section. Now, you see, they worked themselves back onto the oval, and then I think that number 21 car got himself to the outside line, Rachel, which would be in the inside into the next corner, and then himself just making a little bit of contact there. He pushed wide in the first place, got himself onto the grass. That upset the balance of his race car, and I think from then he was always fighting a losing game.
Of course, I think it's critical to say he was on the grass. Now, normally we see people getting on the grass and they spin or they go straight. He did just that, and once he rejoined the track, it wasn't enough momentum, as we see Antonides wrecking into Simon Hulbert there in turn 3 wheel as well.
Well, we'll get ourselves another look at that one then. So Antonides, he's had his best qualifying of the year, Rachel, but when he's qualified well, he's not done so well in the race. When he qualifies down the field, he actually gets better in the race. So Antonides, you can see that down in turn number 3, coming out of the corner. We'll get ourselves a look at that as they work themselves up the hill. But shame there for Antonides, as he was battling there for position, and well, he is now falling down to 7th place on the racetrack.
Yes, he is. Unfortunate for him there, but as I was just saying about Tim Adcock, he got back onto the track, and because the balance was still upset, he could only go straight, and unfortunately that was heading into a left-hand corner. So, problems for him there. The Antonides and Bayfield incident, though, unfortunate, but tight corner, trying to take it too wide. It's one of those things that is not going to work too well. Unfortunately for him, that will be a race-ending incident. For him, Antonides possibly protestable after that one, because it was a bit unnecessary at this stage. Certainly opening things up at the top, though.
Yeah, and now you've got yourself a 2.8 second gap from P2 to P3. Paul Grillo and Mark Mercer. You can see Mercer there in that second pack. Got himself Fordrick Savidovic right behind him. Behind Savidovic is Adcock Stewart. Behind him is Stuart Job. Then recovering for him, Antonides. Then you've got yourself Rafael Draskas in the mix there as well. Just to give you an update, by the way, George Lee Wright has fallen well down our timing and scoring screens. I can't see him anywhere. We'll get an update, figure out what happened to him, but he's now down in the 22nd position on the racetrack, Rachel. Bad lap for him.
It is indeed. I know he pushed wide in the actual parabolic curve in the outfield section, but his incident actually happened in turn 3 on lap 6. Coming into the braking zone for turn 3, he's actually caught in the Antonides incident there with Maycock, and that damaged his rear wing and potentially some of his suspension, because he pushes wide in the outfield section and has a very slow end to that lap. He then comes straight into the pits, so I suspect it's damage inherited by that incident, Will.
Yeah, so here's another look then for George Lee Wright. You see coming down into that corner, we did see a car pushing off there, and there you can see him running 2 wheels, going very slowly on that outside line. Not the way Lee Wright would have wanted his race to have gone. He's now well down the field. After qualifying in the top 10, he actually moved himself up into P6 at one point. And there we can see another look as they work themselves down, and where he just gets clobbered there by Antonides and that number 44 car, who just flipped upside down. That was Simon Hulbert there, of course, as well. So, number of big incidents here, Rachel, but we do kind of expect it. And it was always worth remembering that at this track as well, the corner that they're coming into right now, turn number 3, it's pretty much single file through there. You can pass on the outside, but the track narrows down dramatically, and you've got that huge camber changes. Then you work yourself up the hill as Mark Mercer battles with Roderick Savidovic for P4, P5, and Savidovic actually has no front wing on his car right now.
He's not the first person we've seen at this track with no front wing. Well, yeah, you're right. Turn 3 much, much tighter than it looks. One real line, and it is tighter after that. But it's very tempting and inviting at the start to go in and do just that. But as we look at the front, Savidovic and Mercer having a good fight here, although being kept honest by Job and Adcock behind them, who were looking for any opportunity to pounce.
And just having a look at the lap times that last going by, Simon Povey, your race leader, he's led every single lap of this race as we complete lap number 9 of 21. 109.0 there for your race leader, Simon Povey, a 109.0. Also for Grillo, 109.1 for Mercer, 109.2 for Savidovic. Stuart Adcock is the fastest driver on the racetrack right now, along with Sebastian Job. as they've really caught back up to this pack. And it's a 4-car trainer's job, just darts down to the inside, nowhere near close enough to make a pass. But you can see an under 52 car, Rachel, has got rear wing damage, and that will give Job the opportunity to try and make a pass in the next couple of laps, especially as these tyres start to fall away.
It will indeed, but as we've seen from Wojciech Savidovic there with no front wing on his car, his last lap was a 109.2, which is actually not that bad considering. But Adcock's previous was a 108.959, so definitely at least 2.5 tenths faster than his prey. But it's whether or not he can catch him in a place he can pass. As we did mention, very, very technical track. A lot of tight corners here and some very interesting bankings that do not really lend themselves to passing.
You can see Peter Cohen rattling with Pete Newman in the battle for P14.15. You can see behind as well, you've got Robert Plumney scored in the 16th position. So we've still got ourselves some nice packs of cars. Job has closed that gap back up. We're right on board with him as they work themselves through NASCAR turn 1 and 2. You can see the two very different lines being taken there actually. Job being brave, going all the way down to the inside. Now that will give him a little bit of a speed advantage. You can see 5 miles an hour faster as they come down into turn number 3, but 5 miles an hour still isn't enough there, Rachel. But he does get the crossover as they work themselves up the hill, so he's putting the pressure on. He's got to be careful though, so every lap he does that is going to allow Savidovic and Mercer to just move ahead between the two of them on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's not enough to be faster though, Will. He has to find a place to use that speed. As we saw from turn 1 and 2, taking a very low line, but it's also a very difficult line to hold. And the reward obviously is there, but so is the risk. We saw on Saturday night though, the fastest lines were actually the middle groove that the leaders on Saturday night at the 2K Cup were actually using to great effect. But Job, he's looking for somewhere. He's certainly faster, I think, than Stuart Adcock at this point. But when tyres start to fade on Adcock's machine, they will probably also fade on Job's more because he's fighting so hard to look for a way past.
Yeah, riding along board then with Paul Grillo again taking a slightly different line, but Simon Povey moves across now. That's a defensive move, but Grillo gets himself a much better run as he works himself out the corner. He will look down to the outside, so work themselves down into turn number 3, and now he's going to try and do the cross over as well, so work themselves up the hill, having to just be careful though on the accelerated pedal, Grillo, to make sure he doesn't run into the rear of Simon Povey. He's going to try and think about going to the outside there in turn number 4, not close enough. Now Rachel, some of these drivers, of course, they run on Saturday night in the Skip Barber 2K Cup, and then they come back and do it all over again a couple of days later. Do you think these guys have an advantage by doing so? And also, for some of these drivers who are watching that race, are there any tips that they can pick up, especially on a track like this, with those various lines on a unique racetrack?
Well, almost certainly, but as we know, many of these drivers run the official races in the week, which mirror both schedules, so they get a lot of race experience there to start with, but perhaps not the calibers of both these two series. I think, yes, watching it would be of great benefit, because not only do they see more of the lines being used by drivers in technical corners, like as we can see here, turn 1 and 2, where it is very sensitive, they actually get that highlighted for them by none other than ourselves, if I do beg to preen, but it can give them an insight into what's actually happening, what's working, what isn't working, and physically seeing the speed differential on the camera is very different to seeing it in the car, because you can get very focused on what you're doing, what the other guy's doing, whereas watching these back can be very good for the objective appearance of things like 1 and 2, and here we have in the outfield, okay, again, incredibly sensitive corners.
Yeah, you just saw there Sebastian Job gutting himself past Stuart Adcock. We get ourselves a replay of that one from on board with Stuart Adcock as he works himself down towards turn number 3 in the racetrack. Now that was beautifully set up there by Sebastian Job. He first looks to the outside to work himself there, 2 wide, almost making contact, Rachel, but then Job just gets a good run off the corner, gives him the inside line. The next time they come into a braking zone, that is for turn number 4. Stuart Adcock has to yield the position. Of course, that banking in turn 4 means you can run on that outside line. It's just incredibly difficult to do because the track really kind of falls away on corner entry for these drivers.
It does, and Job did an incredible job to hold that on the outside of him in the previous 2 corners, which requires incredible momentum. But then he had the ability to choose the line he wanted in the next turn, push Adcock wide, and as you're saying, yes, it is banked more, but at the top it does start to roll over, and you do get a bit of that centrifugal force trying to encourage the car outwards, which of course Adcock had to fight, but in the end he lost the position. Certainly probably want to repeat that on Job if he gets the chance.
You can See Rob Green making a pit stop, but now we'll turn our attention back to Roderick Speedway and Mark Mercer battling for positions. They work themselves now on the back end of the racetrack. They dance down the hill here. I love this section of the racetrack. It does actually, in some ways, remind me a little bit of Phillip Island, Rachel, the way the track just falls away in these last couple of corners, and it's all about how you can get on and off the gas here. But also, Paul Grillo, he's not yet trying to make a move on Simon Povey. 14 laps into this 21-lap race. If you are Grillo, when do you think he will try and make a move? Because, of course, you might need more than one lap to actually get the move complete.
Oh, I agree. And first, I'd like to point out that Stuart Adcock is in fact past Sebastian Job once again, although we don't know how long that will last. Those two are going at it tooth and nail. Paul Grillo already has had a go at Simon Povey. He did so out of turn 2, drew alongside running into turn 3, but could not hold it on the outside and fell back in line. So he's certainly looking for a way past. I just don't think he's quite got the speed to do it at this time. Although, it could just be a dart, could be showing his hand to an extent to Povey to set up something else later in the race. I've seen drivers previously make feints to the outside or the inside of a given corner for a whole race, encouraging the person to defend to that position only to go the complete opposite way in the last lap. So Grillo could be holding something up his sleeve.
Sebastian Job, he saw that there, down in towards turn number 3, able to get himself back past. As you can see, that 4-car battle there, you can see Savidovic running himself in 4th place right now. Mark Mercer just 3 tenths of a second ahead. If you have a look now from the rear of Mark Mercer's worked themselves down towards the start-finish line once again. Now Mercer's held steady in that 3rd place. You can see that he started in 6th, moved himself up into 3rd in the early going. He's been able to benefit from some drivers having issues along the way, but good drive by that number 33 car as Grillo again looks close as he gets up behind, down in towards turn number 3. He needs to, I think though, Rachel, needs to get a much better line for the oval section if he's going to actually try and make that move.
I agree, he does, and it's going to be really, really important, but they are closing up to the leaders, so this could become exciting in the end. But somebody else who's closing up is Fahim Antonides in that 8 machine. He's caught up to the back of Stuart Adcock, so he could be moving back up to reclaim his 3rd place that he started with.
As we've got there side-by-side action, here you can see Robert Plumney just behind him. You've got Rich Jones and Adrian Bidwell. That one was worked all the way down. The start-finish straight. We'll get ourselves another look at that one then as they come out of the start-finish line, down towards turn number 1. And you can see that Plumney looking down to the inside in that number 147 car. Was able to make it work there on that inside line. Actually, one of the first drivers we've seen needing to carry all that momentum. But the driver on the outside, that number 24 car, he did decide to, I think, just concede that position. He lost 2 in one go though, Rachel, because of the fact that he slowed down a little bit and he allowed Rich Jones to get ahead of him as well. And they can see Rich Jones. So Rich Jones losing 2 positions there due to being out of place. And of course, he has got a bit of a damaged rear wing as well.
There is definitely some damage to the rear wing of that number 79 car, so could be damaging his top speed. He will be trying everything he can.
So we've got a pass for the race lead, so we'll go back and get ourselves another look at that one then. And here you can see Simon Povey at this point was leading, but Paul Grillo with 5 laps of this event to go. He looked as though he went into go time mode. So we have a look then on board with him. We'll cycle that camera around as he works himself now down. He gets himself a much better run actually through these final couple of corners. And this is where you pick up your momentum. You can see pretty much just right on the rear, just a car length between these 2 drivers. Much better one. Grillo 2 wheels actually on the grass, work themselves out the final corner, down towards start finish line. At that point, does look as though that Povey lost momentum that allowed Paul Grillo to just look down to the inside in NASCAR turn 1 and 2. And really, Rachel, Povey gave it to him. He didn't want to run too wide there for that corner.
I don't know if he didn't want to run too wide, Will. I think Povey made a mistake because he went in very, very high and turned in quite late. So possibly a mistake, although I'm not clairvoyant, so I can't tell if he did or not. It looked like a mistake on his part. It looked like he just went wide. If he did do it on purpose to avoid going too wide, he's saving something for later. But right now, Paul Grillo looks like he has a little bit more speed.
He does. Mark Mercer still with Roderick Speedway, just 3 tenths of a second behind him. Sebastian Job there in that mix as well. 3 drivers separated by about nothing on the racetrack. You've still got Plumney battling with Bidwell on the racetrack as well as they come down in towards turn number 3 once again. The number 147, the number 24 car running pretty much nose to tail. As we get a quick look then from the rear of Robert Plumney. There you can see the gap just 2 tenths of a second as they come down in towards turn number 4 once again. Down to 3.5 laps of this race to go. And to give you an update, by the way, Antonides, he's fallen back again. He's behind Stuart Adcock, but Adcock and Atenides haven't been able to move themselves through the field, Rachel. Atenides, after a good qualifying incident earlier on, now down into the 7th position on the racetrack.
Yeah, big loss for him there. He had a brilliant qualifying, putting that car in 3rd, which is really nice to see, but unfortunately he had a few incidents earlier on, and it's just cost him so much. But he's definitely having a strong return, at least trying to fight his way back. But as we look now, Wojciech Savidovic is definitely having a look there at Mark Mercer, and so is Joe behind them. So this is hotting up for the 2nd pack, Will.
Yeah, and this is still for P3, P4, P5. We're having a look from the rear of Wojciech Savidovic as they come down in towards turn 4. Now, Savidovic has got to be careful, Rachel, because if he gets himself out of shape in turn 3, now we know how good Job is at capitalising on the manoeuvres. He will be right past in a flash.
Oh, exactly. If he makes a mistake, even a slight one, other than killing cones, Job will be right past. And we know Job is very vicious. He will take anything he can get. Of course, he did run in the 2K Cups this weekend, so he's definitely got some battle experience on this track. He will make it if he can.
There you can see, by the way, a little bit of lap traffic at this racetrack, and of course, because it is such a short lap traffic has come into play as well. There you can see Simon Povey working himself past that number 3 car. Paul Grillo still leading the way then. 2 laps of this race to go. Gap between Grillo and Povey is 0.2 of a second. But to go back then and have a look at the position that we've got for P3, 4 and 5 on the racetrack, you can see Savidovic right on the rear of Mark Mercer as they come. He looks to the outside, coming into the corner, and that will give him momentum if he can hold it. The 2 make contact.
Here comes
Job to look down to the inside of Savidovic. He will be boxed in, however, as they work themselves down in towards turn number 4, and they're having to get out of the way of a slow car. That one just kind of helped Savidovic out a little bit, but Job stays side by side. They make contact there, and Savidovic is turned around.
As is Job. Wow, that was a big one. I thought that lap traffic was going to have a big impact, and well, unfortunately they had the big impact themselves. Nearly contact there with the Barber car, I believe, of...
That's number
that
3
is number 3, yeah.
Yeah, and of course he's been put lap
Martin
down
Vance.
in this race. We'll get ourselves another look at that one. He kind of bunched them up. Well, he didn't do much. He just made these 2 drivers a little bit closer as they worked themselves down into turn 4. And there you can see the contact then. Savidovic hitting, Job hit Savidovic the first time, then the 2 making contact again. There you can see Savidovic. There you can see Job going off of the racetrack as well, putting them down outside of the top 5. Atenides is now back into the top 5, as is Stuart Adcock. In the meanwhile, down into turn number 3 for the final time comes Paul Grillo, who's able to get himself the race lead away from Stuart Povey. Povey led the first 16 laps of this race, and then Grillo capitalising on a mistake by Povey as he pushed wide in NASCAR turn 1 and 2. Still got some ongoing battles to finish off here. Looks as though this field is overall spread a little bit out. As you can see, Mark Turner trying to battle with David Williams in the closing stages of this event. But as they work themselves down to the hill for the final time, it's Grillo by 0.3 of a second now from Simon Povey as they come back down onto the NASCAR circuit for the final time in this race. 0.3 of a second. Looks like that Grillo now has just about done enough. He'll be able to turn it into the final corner, and he will claim victory here in the 5th round of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Paul Grillo is your winner. Simon Povey will come home in the 2nd position. 3rd place will go to Mark Mercer coming past the stripe now. Then Stuart Adcock and Fahim Atenides round out your top 5. Atenides late race charge. Not quite close enough, Rachel.
No, unfortunately will not be, but yeah, definitely an interesting recovery for him, and some luck granting him 2 extra places, bringing him back inside the top 5. Not the 3rd he started with, but I'm sure he'll take it.
Well, there you can see George Lee Wright as well completing his race down in the 14th position. Of course, he was running inside the top 10 earlier, fell down after an incident in the earlier part of this event. An unfortunate bystander there, home in 14th position. But ladies and gentlemen, most people now have come across the start finish line. No real battles to think about. So you can see Carl Hanley down at the rear of the field. He is going to be the 2nd to last driver finishing the lead lap. The last driver on the lead lap is this one, Pete Newman. He comes home in the 21st position. We'll step aside for just one moment, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with final race results after these messages. You are watching RaceSpotTV, home of the 2015 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Final race results, and ladies and gentlemen, from this the 5th round of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship, and Paul Grillo led 5 laps, was able to take victory. Fastest lap for him today, a 1 minute 8.890. Simon Povey led 16 laps, wasn't able to get victory, however he comes home in second, half the second back. Mark Mercer in 3rd, Stuart Adcock in 4th, Fahim Atinides in 5th, Rafael Draskas in 6th, Sebastian Job in 7th, Roderick Swedowicz in 8th, David Williams in 9th, and then Mark Turner rounding out your top 10. Then to have a look back, it's Adrian Bidwell coming home in the 11th position, Robert Plumley in 12th, Adam Don in 13th, George Lee Wright 14th, Rick Jones, Peter Cohen, Theobald Rand, Rob Green, Anna Patterson, and Cole Handley rounding out your top 20 as they can see the rest of the results. Big field here today, Rachel. Couple of casualties as we have Abdul Amory out of the race, Mark O'Connell, Clark Williams, Jonathan Maycock, Graham Cowell and Carl Barker didn't actually start this race, as did Maycock. But we're going to go back and we're going to have a look at the incident between Sebastian Job and Roderick Swedowicz. And it all really started out in turn number 3 on the racetrack.
It did indeed, Will, and as we saw them coming through turn 3, Roderick Swedowicz nearly clipped the back of Mark Mercer and was out on the outside of the corner. Nearly pinched off there by Job. They had a very near miss with a piece of lap traffic. Martin Vance's car was nearly in the way. Now, the critical part happens as we come into turn 5. The sweeping banked 180-degree corner. Mark Mercer and Sebastian Job on the outside line. Little bit slower. And Swedowicz on the inside. Mercer, whilst leading, can choose his line. I'm not saying he's cut down. He chose to take a tighter line out the corner. Unfortunately, not something would be recommended with a car on the low side. From my interpretation, that caused Swedowicz to check up. which he did, and the back end came round, counter steering, brought him into Job. So, weirdly enough, I actually want to place the blame for that on Mercer's move to the inside.
Now I've looked at it again, I completely agree.
Yeah, so unfortunate position there, costing two good cars their positions. Job definitely finishing, as did Savidovic, but far down the order, finishing together 7th and 8th respectively. So bad end for those two to that race, and yeah, maybe words afterwards.
Here's one more look then, actually. As you can see, Davidovic has Mercer just cut across him there, just clips the right front tyre. That pushes Davidovic a little bit off, making that contact then with Sebastian Job. Job himself getting turned around. You can see there spinning on our RaceSpotTV super slow-mo replay to speed it up for him. And Job actually very lucky he didn't impale it in that tyre wall right about there. We'll get ourselves one more look at it then, ladies and gentlemen, from our aerial coverage powered by And1 Design. But a sad day for these drivers to end their race. That lap traffic really had nothing to do in that one at all as far as I'm concerned. But apart from that, Rachel, a couple of casualties, but still overall a good race.
Yeah, brilliant race. Tough track, as we said. Very difficult to pass here, as we saw. Much less than we normally see, of course. These guys are usually passing maniacs, but yeah, there was a tough track. Good race. Once again, large number of the field finishing, which is more than most series seem to have. So, UK and Skippy series still succeeding in being an awesome racing series to watch. Certainly my favourite in the week.
Yeah, there you can see them, with Roderick Savidovic having to get himself out of the way after he had himself his incident. But ladies and gentlemen, no one wants to talk to us. That means it's time for us to say goodbye. And this has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the 5th round of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship from myself, Paul Vincent, and Rachel Whiteford. Yep, we're tired. We'll talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.